everybody.
This is JJ and Alex.
I made a name for myself. I told you I won't be denied.
As you wrap up your day, it's time to get your fix of the teams you live for and the sports you love. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Curie, Jeremiah Jensen. What's up, JJ? Hey, are your Broncos playing football tonight?
Yes, they are.
Yeah,
They're getting the
man.
Saints at the right time.
Everybody hurt.
Spencer Rattler is an incredible quarterback. He should start tonight for the Saints.
I think it's pronounced Spencer Rattler.
Rashid Shaheed's out for the year. He's not playing.
That's a bummer.
Taysom Hill's out. The Saints are so banged up. It's crazy. They started 2-0 and they were scoring 40 points a game. And now they've lost 4 straight, soon to be 5 straight.
Jamal Williams is a spokesperson for Pokemon, right? Like, he gets paid, doesn't he?
Essentially.
He needs to be. Get that guy an NIL deal with the Pokemon trading card company. Let's go. It's a Thursday. That means we got a lot going on here. Later on in the show, our Thursday through the basketball season debut of Thurl Bailey. Big T going to join us every Thursday right here on the KSL Sports Zone, and we're going to get a download. Hey, look, listen, if there's somebody – I was talking to someone today who goes, I'm an eternal optimist about the Utah Jazz. And I was like, that's a really, really good thing that I think a lot of people can't say right now. But if there's somebody who could absolutely be an optimist about it and see kind of a vision further down the road, it's Big T Thurl Bailey. So Thurl's going to come on. We're excited about that. We've got tons to break down. We're now just over 24 hours away from BYU taking on Oklahoma State. I've talked myself in and out of wondering if this team is legit this week. If you give me enough days, if this was another bye week, JJ, I would be telling everybody, nah, they're probably going to lose this one. Like, just because I can get in my own head. I've seen this team before. I've seen things happen with teams that start out this way, and I'm trying to understand, like, as the numbers go, BYU is just performing. And from the way things look up on the hill for Utah, I decided to take the same approach that this person that I talked to today goes, no, I'm an eternal optimist about the Utah Jazz. I go, you know what? I'm going to be an optimist about all the teams we cover today. It might only last today. It might not even last through the show. To be honest, I might be at the end in pieces.
Is this a new thing? We're going to call it Sunshine and Rainbows Thursday?
Yeah, listen. Somebody's got to offset.
We lie through our teeth about our local teams to make all of you listening.
Here comes the cynicism again.
We lie through our teeth to make everybody listening think that their team is great.
It's not lying through your teeth.
Heat flow through you.
It is what we call in the radio business pandering. All right? I'm going to be everyone's best friend. I want you to like us out there.
But Alex, what about the integrity that we've built with our audience, the trust that we're going to give it to them straight and honest each and every day we come here on the mic?
My favorite is when people go, how can you call yourself a journalist? I go, oh, I never have. I've never called myself a journalist. Absolutely not. Hey, you call yourself a journalist. No, I do not. I graduated in broadcast journalism. So technically, I was heading down that path at one point. I jumped off of it at a certain point, too. You know why? Because I opened my fat mouth too much about how I feel about things, really. And that's why we do this talk show. Not to be journalists, JJ. In fact, this is when JJ steps away from being a journalist. That's what's great. This is 3 hours of zero journalistic integrity. Boom. That's what our promise is to you.
So we're a clown show is what you're saying.
No, listen, it's not a clown show. We have opinions, and they may be dead wrong. Sometimes they're dead right. And either way, we get criticized for it. And I love it. That's what this is.
And I welcome that, and it's fun.
Absolutely.
If you think I suck, tell me on Twitter.
Or continue to tell us on Twitter. That's fine.
Or if you're 65 or older, just email me.
There's that one. My favorite is when you get those station emails, you're like, oh boy, here it comes. There was something a gentleman of your station wrote on Twitter.
Oh, that Jeremy Johnson character on the 6 o'clock news tonight.
No, that's my favorite. When they go, I've got a beef to pick. The other night, one of your sports anchors, one of your sports people, blah, 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 blah. And that's why I'm never listening or watching Channel 4 again. And I'm like, okay, you went down the wrong road totally from the beginning.
Sir, with all due respect, wrong channel.
Like way wrong channel.
You're looking for
like, please
this
never
person.
Confuse us with that station ever again, please. I mean, God bless them. All right, let's kick off the show. We got tons to jump into today. We've got all sorts of things to jump into when it comes to the Big 12, when it comes to Utah, when it comes to BYU. We're going to be jamming about the Utah Hockey Club. I was absolutely ashamed to call myself a watcher of NHL hockey last night when the Utah Hockey Club just handed away that last goal to the Anaheim.
Hey, what happened about
Ducks?
the Sunshine and Rainbows thing?
Sorry.
Less than 10 minutes.
Fine. Okay. Man, isn't hockey fun? I almost made it through the first segment. I almost made it through 5 minutes. But we'll get to that and much more. We've got things because we're hockey people now, all right? We know what we're talking about. So let's jump in here. Let's have a Big 12 discussion. And let's go into I want you to go. We're going to have the benefit of hindsight this entire segment right here as we jump in. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar the perfect protein bar. Give it a shot. Go to Costco in the refrigerated section. That's where I prefer to do it just because you can get some dollars off with your membership. It's a membership club, JJ. But you can find it at all the different places across the Wasatch Front in the refrigerated section, so go check it out. Let's kick off the program as we always do with the cut. Let's jump in right here.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
And this portion of the show brought to you by Trajan Wealth for all of your trusted retirement financial needs. Trajan Wealth, TRAJAN Wealth.com is the website. When's the actual first game of the Jazz season, by the way?
It's Wednesday.
Next Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's why Thurl coming on Thursday is big because
we're 6 days away.
It's officially almost game week.
Yes.
Okay?
That's correct.
Is there a World Series game or an ALCS game on right now? Well, see you guys in a couple hours.
All right.
Yeah, we'll have to get that.
Yankees Guardians, top of the first. Just getting
love it. Okay. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this Big 12 as it sits right now. Okay. But first, to understand kind of how wild it is, you have to look and see what the media poll in. Let me look at the date here. This must have been mid-July of 2024, and mid-July in 2024. Let me remind you where our heads were at. Utah was picked first in the Big 12. There's a 20 next to their name because that's how many first-place votes they received. Dang it. I was one of those people who threw the Utah vote onto the top of the heap. You?
No, I don't. I'm not a no. I mean, in the Big 12? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure.
I threw it in there.
Utah was number one before. I mean, we all did.
Yeah.
Except for the people who voted for Kansas State, right? It was basically Utah and Kansas State.
Right. Now, Oklahoma State, I'll remind you, so Utah got 20 first-place votes.
Yes.
Kansas State got 19 first-place votes. This show was basically the difference of Kansas State being the tops in the league.
Sorry, Wildcats.
And you know what?
Sounds like a curse, though, if you think about it now.
Well,
so maybe we did them a favor.
Let's go through the top four again. Utah, 20 votes. Kansas State in second at 19. Oklahoma State in third with, it's not like 2. They got 14 first-place votes. Kansas was your fourth team. Arizona was your third team. You seeing a pattern here? Minus Kansas State, who have sort of held serve through what people thought what people thought they were going to be at this time. I don't think the
38-9 beatdown in Provo.
Now that was a shock.
I'm not sure that's holding serve.
Now that was a shock, but they are one loss. If they would have had one loss in the conference at this point through the season, you don't totally bail on the year. And certainly we've seen Kansas State, and you know that you don't necessarily have to bail out on Chris Kleiman's guys because that's a pretty darn good football team.
And their schedule's not tough, except for that Iowa State game at the end.
Okay, let's go 6 through 10. Iowa State, West Virginia, UCF, Texas Tech, and TCU. That's 6 through 10.
3 of the 5 have overachieved.
So in that middle tier, what we would call that middle tier of the conference, West Virginia is, I'd say, they're a 2.5 tier type team right now. They're certainly better than Neil Brown should. He's got to keep his job, right? He's doing a good job. UCF has massively underperformed compared to what now 8th in the league is not necessarily, awesome. That's halfway through. But UCF, people were looking at and going, that's a team that could threaten.
They're essentially 10th right now.
Right.
Or 11th.
So they're not that far off of where we thought they were going to be. However, they're trending in a bad direction.
Right.
Texas Tech. Okay, move them all the way up. They are currently tied at the top of the conference with a 3-0 record. TCU is in a bad spot. Now let's go 11 through 16. Colorado, overperforming, underperforming.
Overperforming.
Okay, 4-2 on the year.
What's up, boss? You believe
No,
that?
I still don't, Coach.
Hold on.
I'm not going to either.
Hold on.
Their only loss is to Kansas State in conference so far.
And Kansas State had to pull it out of the hat, brother.
Sort of, yeah.
They're in Boulder. So Baylor at 12. That's probably about where we had Baylor in our heads, right?
Yeah. But they're worse. They're actually worse.
They're
than
actually
that.
worse. They're 0-3 in conference, yes?
Yeah.
Coming off a bye week, hoping to get a dub.
2-4 overall.
BYU is picked 13th. We'll come back to that. Cincinnati is 14. Also a team that's overperformed. What are they, 4-2 and 2-1?
Correct.
Okay. Houston, we are what you thought you are what we thought you were. You could actually make an argument that Arizona State is a bigger shock than even BYU. Based off of what they were picked. 16th in the league.
Yes, you could.
They are, 2-1 in conference play now?
They're 5-1 overall, 2-1 in conference play. Their only loss is to Texas Tech.
So they're tied for second, basically, in the Big 12.
Correct.
Okay. They're one win away from being bowl eligible, which that's the standard nowadays to act like we've done something, right?
That saves jobs.
It really does. And in Kenny Dillingham's case, it'll get him an extension.
No doubt.
Like he goes 6-1 after this week. Wait, are they playing this week? They might have a bye. I don't know.
You consider the disaster that they were
awful
after the Herm Edwards
right,
stuff.
and to pick up the pieces after just 1 year.
They play at Cincinnati.
But this is
10 a.m. on Saturday.
Yeah. Utah right now 1-2 in conference play, so not the dead worst because you have some 0 for teams. The biggest shock for underperforming, in my mind, is the tie between Oklahoma State and Kansas. Kansas was picked to finish behind Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State is 0-3 in conference play. Can that last, JJ? Will 0-3 turn into 0-4 with a team who has not had a 4-game losing streak in 13 years?
Yeah, because they're going to a tough place to play against a team that's really, really good right now, and Oklahoma State's not good. How does a team with the Doak Walker Award winner from last year return their entire offensive line with an 7th or 8th year quarterback this bad? They're bad.
It is a bad team.
They got absolutely crushed by West Virginia, who had their second-string quarterback in after the Green kid got hurt on the second series.
They have a fellow who's green?
They do.
The Green kid. So
we've discriminated against green kids for far too long.
The dad jokes come out very quickly.
It's time that we allow green kids to play football.
It's green with 3 E's, okay? So in the end, what's the most shocking thing to you? Arizona State 16th and actually where they are now. Utah picked first and 1-2 in conference. Oklahoma State picked third and 0-3 currently. Kansas at 1-5 and 0-3. They were picked to finish fourth in the conference. What's the most shocking thing to you? Or BYU at 13, now at the very top of the table.
How about I could give you my most disappointing and most surprising.
Okay.
BYU, Kansas State Arizona State are neck and neck as far as the biggest surprises. Oklahoma State is a bigger disappointment than Kansas.
Okay. That's a bigger disappointment.
Because
That's a bigger shock to you?
Kansas has historically been bad. And we knew Jalen Daniels wasn't himself last year. And this idea or expectation that he was going to be this Heisman candidate is so weird. I don't understand it at all. Kansas doesn't have the horses that Oklahoma State has. Kansas doesn't have a 20-year head coach in Mike Gundy. They don't have the consistency of an Oklahoma State. And for Oklahoma State to fall this far off of what they did last year is strange. But this is becoming a thing with Oklahoma State because last year they were good. The year before that they were bad. The year before that they won 12 games. Who are they? Mm-hmm. They are all over the map each and every year. But even that said, Oklahoma State brought back more guys, more depth at different positions than Kansas did. There's no excuse. You have the best running back in college football last year is still on your roster, and he can't get to 100 yards in a game behind the same offensive line that blocked from last year.
Right.
That's on the coaches.
Yep.
So that's the biggest disappointment. Kansas, I feel like they've got holes and they've got issues. I don't think their coach all of a sudden stinks. I think they have a nice running back, and that's about it. And Jalen Daniels is a disappointment. But Kansas doesn't have the horses that Oklahoma State has.
Okay.
There's no excuse in Stillwater.
Aside from re-ranking like where these teams are supposed to be at, I want you to re-rank in your head. You remember where we had BYU's quarterback room before the year started?
16th.
Do you remember where college football had the quarterback room?
It wasn't us. I mean, you look around all over the place, like all the analytics places. Everybody had BYU 16th.
In a lot of cases, it wasn't. They were 15 or 16. Do you remember who the 16th was? It was Oklahoma State. A couple of.
Remember they're like Alan Bowman's not great.
No, and he's proven that that's the case. Yeah, there's no way that guy's going to get the start this weekend. Every Oklahoma State beat writer and we had the sideline analysts on with us this week. Everybody's like, yeah, I don't know if you're going to see Alan Bowman again. Partly it's because of how much Mike Gundy stood behind his guy for a long time. And this week it was waffling.
But the funny thing is the guy we probably will see this weekend has been at Oklahoma State longer than Alan Bowman.
Yeah.
Alan Bowman's on his third team.
Rangel's been there since 2022.
He came in for an injured Spencer Sanders a couple years ago.
Was Spencer Sanders the guy who was? Oh no, that's Brandon Wheaton, right? The guy who was like 100.
Guy who was like, he was like a baseball player.
Yeah,
he
was like, I've retired from baseball so that I can play football.
40-year-old Brandon Wheaton.
It's quite hilarious. All right, we got tons going on in the program right now, and we're going to do something today. Of course, we're hanging out today, and this is a fun thing for us here because we don't get to hang out every week with the folks at Hercules Credit Union. And this has been one of our funnest things all year long, is helping people understand exactly what the Hercules Hero of the Week is. And what's really fun about this is being able to sit down with you guys and to be able to run through here and to understand what's going on.
And this is our first time having Caleb Fielding in.
Yep.
Caleb, welcome to the show.
Caleb,
thank you.
Listen, you're our third. Does that mean we've kicked everybody else out? The other two don't want to do it anymore?
We're that
I know they're
annoying
here.
that nobody else wants to come
You're
back?
not that scary, but maybe a little intimidating.
Okay. Caleb, first of all, we appreciate all the support that Hercules Credit Union's given. And also, frankly, it's been really fun to have the Hercules Hero of the Week all year. And it's fun to be able to read these stories of people from across the entire valley to be able to jump in on this thing. So what is Hercules Credit Union doing, not just in the community, but also for the members who are out there or potential members of the credit union to be able to get some money? Look, this is a time of year, or this is a time, at least like for us, my wife and I, we've looked at things and going, okay, what about taking out a loan? What about a HELOC? What are rates looking like? It's a lot more favorable now than it's been in a while.
It is definitely more favorable than it's been for several years, honestly. Yeah. But really, Hercules' responsibility is to be a financial partner to help people make those decisions, because there's 1,001 different options that people can take advantage of, and it's really just about trying to tailor what the options are to the actual person and their specific circumstances.
There's a lot of people that have been waiting for the rates to come down to buy a home, and we finally saw a rate decrease. And so a lot of people are probably thinking, maybe, is it time? Is it time? You have a chance to speak to those people right now. What does Hercules Credit Union do to help those home buyers who are considering right now finally getting back into the market?
One of the primary things that we do is we sit our members down and we talk to them and we try and get an idea of what their entire financial picture looks like. So it's not just how much money do you have for a down payment, how much do you think you can afford, and let's get you into a loan. It's much broader than that. It's helping them understand their credit. It's helping them understand how this is an opportunity to help them build wealth over the length of their lives. And really our job is to try and connect them with something that's going to set them up for financial success in the long term.
Like you said, the rates have changed, and your area of specialty is in that mortgage arena. So help us understand why right now is a really good time to sit down with somebody like you or on the team at Hercules to go, hey, you can get into that house that maybe you were thinking to yourself, I don't know if I can do, or maybe refinancing or whatever it might be, because maybe a year and a half ago some people got into some rates that they were not very good, and now it's at least improved a little bit. How can we help those guys out?
If anybody has either looked into buying a home or has looked into refinancing over the past couple of years, it hasn't made a whole lot of sense for those people.
Yep.
It's been terrifying, but they finally dipped enough to where now it's still not what it was 4 or 5 years ago, but it's a lot more attractive now. And there's a lot of people who can get into a home that otherwise 2 years ago couldn't.
So if somebody's listening right now, if you want to go to HerculesCU.com, it's just HerculesCU.com. You've heard us talking about and singing the praises of Hercules First Federal Credit Union. If somebody wants to become a member, what do they have to do?
So they can either go online, they can visit us at one of our 3 branches. Online's probably the easiest for most people, and then we can connect from there.
Okay, HerculesCU.com. Caleb Fielding. Caleb, I'd say A- on your first go here.
I appreciate it. I'll take that.
He's a tough grader.
Listen,
So
3.7.
don't be offended by the minus.
3.7 GPA. Those are the kids that were always smarter than me
He
anyway.
believes in you.
That's better than I did in high school. So
There you go. Okay,
And
Caleb.
look at you now.
If you want to sit down with somebody like Caleb or some of these folks who are handling accounts, loans, mortgages, and if you want to just get questions answered, really, because I think a lot of people, it's a nebulous thing. You don't even want to ask half the time because then, you feel like you're getting your credit card or your credit report looked at. How about just asking a question to an expert, becoming a member of Hercules First Federal Credit Union, and finding out how to get yourself those good rates? Caleb, thanks for hanging out, man.
Yep,
We appreciate
thank you.
it.
Appreciate it.
We'll come back. We got more to go right around the corner. Stay with us. 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Utes return home to the Hill to take on an old familiar foe in TCU. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Thanks for being with us. Hope your football season, hockey season, almost basketball season. Am I missing any of them?
Everything's happening right now.
By the way, college
We even
basketball.
had the PGA Tour in Utah this month.
No, I know.
Everything's happening.
College basketball is not that far off either, by the way. When the
Everyone's
NBA
having their
when the NBA hits,
Midnight Madness
yes,
deals or whatever you want to
they're
call them.
blue and white games, they're red and white games. When the NBA season hits, give yourself a month before you go, oh, they already played 3 games? Wow. But were they the ones that count? Were they the ones on the schedule that are green because they don't actually count? And the answer is BYU basketball, Utah State basketball, all going to be firing up here. What was Utah picked in? We talked about BYU being picked 9th in the Utah's picked last?
16th.
Woo. Hey, let's hope that everything works out for Utah basketball like it did for BYU year 1 of the Big 12. Let's hope that the tables.
Could we have an inverse?
Let's hope that the tables in basketball look like the tables in football after it's all said and done.
Let's see if the turntables.
JJ, it's fun
It's for you
working-
Office
it's
fans
fun
out
working
there.
for you and with you. Oh, how the turntables. BYU going up the rankings and getting playoff consideration. Here's the thing, though. There's still a lot of trepidation even for the national guys to give BYU all the credit. Now, I think it's interesting because people have no problem putting Iowa State into that single-digit ranking. What's the real? But again, they were also picked to finish 6th in the Big 12 standings. So it's not like people were looking at Iowa State. Iowa State was looked at as a team that was on the cusp of being ranked. Now, this is why early season rankings matter in the AP poll, because it took a good 3 or 4 weeks for BYU to finally start to get like some traction there, and that matters. And is it really that, or is it that people still don't believe of what Kalani Sitake's doing down there in Provo?
I just think it's a lack of familiarity of having BYU in these positions. Because prior to now, they did not have a seat at the table. Iowa State's been in a power conference forever. They were in the Big 8. Now they're in the Big 12, and then they've been there the whole time, right? So Iowa State has never been a big juggernaut in college football.
Right.
But they've been in these conferences and playing teams like Texas and Oklahoma over the years. So BYU is an unfamiliar name to a lot of these people that are talking about this playoff situation because they have not been in the mix So I think it's just foreign to them at this point. And because of where BYU was picked in the off season, it's just people are not there yet with them. But if the people that are watching college football and do really dig into it deep recognize their resume as strong as anybody in the country right now for inclusion in a college football playoff, as long as they stay on this path, if you're BYU and you're undefeated and you continue to stack up W's like you are, they've got to win over Kansas State. They got to win on the road over SMU, who is now in the top 25. If you're paying attention to what SMU has done since that loss to BYU, they have been on the up. SMU's a good football team. They're a top 25 football team. They're a quiet contender in the ACC. Mm-hmm. SMU is no longer a group of five. BYU beat an ACC team that's ranked in the top 25 on their home field. Now you take the SMU away from that and you put Florida State there instead? Is that going to get the attention of people? Yes, it would.
Yeah.
So, because it's SMU, it doesn't get the same shock value. I think people were asleep when BYU beat Kansas State 38-9. I don't think a lot of people watched that game, unfortunately.
Yeah. And it is interesting how quickly games like that are forgotten, because by the end of the year, you're going to have voters who are going to be like, so wait. So Kansas State taking on BYU in the Big 12 championship game. Let's say the conversation starts that way, right? And they go, okay, so now who did Kansas State lose to? Oh, they lost to BYU by 4 scores? I mean, did I forget about that? It was was that their second conference game or first?
That was the first. That was BYU's that was the first Big 12 game they've ever played.
No, Kansas State, I'm saying this year.
This
season.
It was Kansas State's first, because they played Arizona the week before, but that did not count.
Right.
That was not a conference.
That's true.
Game.
But so when you say Iowa State's has never really been a juggernaut in football, they have 2 conference titles in their history. 1911 and 1912.
We all remember those years.
Don't sleep on. You know why you should? Because guess who was co-head coach at the time of those 2 championships? Pop Warner. Boom. The namesake of Pee Wee football. I had no idea Pop Warner.
There you go. Iowa State. He loved living in Ames. Apparently.
This is a team that is overall is 3-17 all time in bowls.
Wow.
Okay. The last time they won a division title, even in a conference, was 2004. Now, they had a good year a couple of years ago. Remember Matt Campbell, what was it, 2 seasons ago? They won 11 games. Did they end in the top 10? They were preseason top 10 last year, and then did not perform like people thought that they should. But now, I don't know why I'm going on this Iowa State tangent. I think it's just because
they're the number 1 team in the conference right now. They're ranked higher than BYU.
They're ranked higher than BYU.
People are putting them in that college football playoff slot at number 4.
Yes.
Where we think BYU belongs there, right? That's the argument we're making.
Right, that they have more impressive wins, etc. Right? They're both 6-0. They're both 3-0 in conference play. But BYU has beaten.
It was 2021, by the way. They finished 7th in the AP poll that year.
And how many wins did they have that year? 11? 11, 12 wins?
Oh, wait, no, that year. No, they ended up 7-6.
That was the year they went 7-6.
But they didn't finish. No, okay, so the college football playoff final in 2020, they were 10th.
Okay, there you go.
And that year they went 9-3. And they went to the Fiesta Bowl.
Huh.
There you go.
Okay.
So they went to a
2020 was a weird year. BYU went 11-1 that year too.
They went to a New Year's Day bowl game.
There you go.
The once and only time, I believe, in their history.
So here's a question that I have. With BYU's run game the way that it is right now, which is like a giant question mark still in my mind, still haven't had a 100-yard rusher this year. Now, part of it is because they love splitting those reps. You get 9 carries, you get 11 carries, you get 7 carries. And the running game finally had a 5.7, I think, run per average, per play, per rush this past weekend against Arizona. And that was the first time they were over 5 in a long time. So can a team win a conference when they still really haven't gotten that run game going?
Well, okay, so we have to be careful with that, right? Did they have a 100-yard rusher this year? No. How many yards did they have for the game rushing?
27 for 147.
147 is a good number. 147 is a really good number.
Yeah, and on 27 carries for sure.
So I know it's by committee, and I know that they don't have a star there right now. Injuries all obviously impacted that. But what I do like about the run game, Alex, is they've got a lot of guys they can trust. So if they need to give them the bulk of the carries, I think they could do that. I'm more concerned about the team rushing number than I am about the individual number. I think that's key. So Utah, Mekhi Bernard, how incredible was he against Arizona State? He was the only guy that seemed like he wanted to be there.
Yep.
It felt like it, right? And that offensive line did a good job. Did you know that BYU outperformed Utah in the run game on Saturday?
What were the numbers?
Utah only ran for 140 yards. BYU ran for 147. Utah had the 100-yard back with a touchdown. BYU did not. So which team ran the ball better? BYU did, statistically. So you want to see that guy step up and be the man, like we're seeing with Mekhi Bernard. Great story. But all that matters really is that you're getting the job done with rushing yards for the team. And BYU right now accomplished that, at least in their last outing. So it is a fair concern because you want to see consistency in a spot that was bad last year. They did not run the ball well last year. And we talked a lot about the offensive line's role in that. But while you're not seeing the 100-yard rusher, the truth is BYU is being much more effective running the football this year and is actually contributing to their 6-0 start.
So let me roll out for you. I can't figure out what's the weirdest ranking out of all this. Okay, so let me read for you. This is as of September 1st. There was a ranking, a preseason, and I think there had already been a couple games played, but like not by. It was like week 0 was the only stuff that had been played at that point. The Big 12 quarterback rankings. You ready for this? Number 1 in the preseason. Any guesses?
No.
Noah Fafita.
Okay.
You know why? I mean, obviously he came
hype.
with a lot of hype,
And they were incredible last year. Their pass game was really good.
Shedeur Sanders was second.
Yeah.
He could still probably be right there.
All the hype around Shedeur, I probably would have said he would be the first one I would think of.
Cam Rising was 3. Okay, now, again, I want you to think about where we're at now, where your head is now, okay? Cam Rising was 3. Jalen Daniels is 4 for Kansas, okay? Imagine how ridiculous this sounds now. 5 is Garrett Green for West Virginia. Fine. He was all right. He's been okay. I don't know about 5th best, but now he's injured now. Rocco Beck for Iowa State was 6th. Avery Johnson for Kansas State was 7. Alan Bowman was 8th on this list. The week before that, his rank was 10th. DeQuan Finn for Baylor was ranked 9th. Before the season started, he was 6th. Okay? Baron Morton for Texas Tech was 10th. KJ Jefferson was 11th. Josh Hoover was 12th. Donovan Smith for Houston was 13, and you didn't even know that's what the name of the quarterback was for Houston, by the way. Brendan Sorsby, you also didn't know that name. Quarterback for Cincinnati. Just like you don't remember that Scott Satterfield's their head coach. Very forgettable program currently, even though they're 4-2 and 2-1 in conference. Jake Retzlaff was 15th. And then dead last was Sam Levitt. Think about that. Sam Levitt for Arizona State and Jake Retzlaff for BYU have put the big middle finger to everybody who thought that they were not going to be good enough. And to think that Jalen Daniels was 4th and Cam Rising was 3rd, think about where our heads are now. And I'm not saying that that Cam wouldn't have the ability. If he was 100% healthy, maybe he would be in that top tier. Maybe it would be. But in this particular case, quite wild.
I have the stats up for this season so far, quarterbacks passing.
What do you got?
I could give you either the top by yards or efficiency. Which would you prefer?
Let's do yards
because yards can be deceiving.
Yeah, but that's the sexy thing, though. You want to see how many. Okay, who's got the most?
All right, Shedeur Sanders.
Yes.
Second is Josh Hoover. Third is Brendan Sorsby.
Cincinnati.
4th is Alan Bowman. Most of that was in the first 3 games of the year.
Right.
Baron Morton is 5th. Noah Fafita 6th. Rocco Beck 7th. Jake Retzlaff 8th. Garrett Green 9th. Sam Levitt 10th. Avery Johnson 11th. Jalen Daniels, 12th. Sawyer Robertson of Baylor, 13th. KJ Jefferson, UCF, 14th. Isaac Wilson, Utah, 15th. And Donovan Smith, 16th. When you throw up the efficiency numbers, Jake Retzloff goes up to 6th.
Okay.
And Rocco Becht of Iowa State
Number 1.
is 2nd.
Oh.
Shadur is still 1st in
Really?
yards and efficiency.
That's quite
A lot
impressive.
of people are going to be like, come on, man. But you know what? The stats back it up. Shadur
Right.
Sanders is the best quarterback in the Big 12. And
Look,
it's not
and
even close.
QBR, the QBR rating gets Kyle Whittingham's blood pumping. And if he has to admit it, he would probably say, well, his that Colorado quarterback, that number 2, is that what number he is?
Yeah.
That number 2, he's got good QBR. Obviously, that's a great stat. One of the best in the conference. I mean, one of the best in the country. Can you hear that press conference already, by the
17
way?
touchdowns, 4 interceptions.
That's pretty good. That's pretty darn good. So
and
what I'm
all
saying
that with
is
a bad offensive line.
right. And what I'm saying is that the expectations were set, and look at what the reality was. Whoever's quarterback was not performing or has not performed, those teams have shot to the very bottom of the conference. And teams that quarterbacks overperformed, not surprisingly, have shot up the list. Where'd you say Sam Levitt was? I didn't hear his name at all.
Yeah, he's 10th on efficiency.
Okay.
He was, I can go to yards. He's 10th in yards.
Okay.
10 out of 16.
Not super impressive, but they also
He's been
have
good enough.
But in their case, they have
Scadaboo's
they
the
have
guy.
Scadaboo who was definitely overperformed. So that's another piece of that offense that overperformed.
All you needed was a quarterback to come in and take care of the football,
All right.
and he's done that.
Let's take a break. Hey, you can nominate your youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. You've been hearing us talk about the Hercules Hero of the Week all season long, and we're going to continue to harp on it. You can nominate a person that you know in your neighborhood who does a phenomenal job with the youth as a volunteer in your community. So many of these volunteers and so many of these sports coaches, things like that, are helping these kids, and they get zero recognition, and they don't do it for the recognition. They do it because they love the game, they love the kids. And you can honor those people with the Hercules Hero of the Week just by going to KSLSports.com/contest. That's KSLSports.com/contest. Listen, every Thursday afternoon, JJ and I read those winners, and we'll roll out. And we're still gonna chat with Hercules Credit Union here a little bit, and Caleb on how to get you some awesome rates with your mortgages these days with Hercules Credit Union. We'll come back. We got more to go. Hercules Credit Union brings you the Hercules Hero of the Week, and so does Beehive Meals. So we'll be right back. More to go. Right around the corner, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Listen, everybody.
Real life hypotheticals to get your brain churning. As JJ and Alex ask, would you rather?
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Let me see here. Is Saturday night the first one? Is that the Boston Bruins? That's
Yeah.
the second home. That's the second home game for the Utah Hockey Club.
It's crazy how long they had to wait for their second home game.
It's been fun to watch. It was
Schedule makers not being kind to this
bummer
new
of
club.
it. Well, they had to get him on. They had to get him out there. Got to get him out in front. I appreciate him being on TV as much as they were at the very beginning. And look, it is nice to be able to either tune in the radio or watch it here locally. It's awesome. Not a fun result last night because they went to overtime, gave up a late goal to make it 4-4, and then I even told my kid, I go, look, they've been winning these games. This is going to be a 5-4 overtime game. Watch. When they were up 4-3, I said, this is going to be a 5-4 overtime game. But I assumed they were going to win it, not give it away at the end. And then, well, anyway, I sound negative, but I told you I was going to go with the positive today, JJ. Wow, hockey's fun. Okay? By the way, you can win lunch from the KSL Sports Zone every Tuesday thanks to Cafe Rio and their Taco Tuesdays that are now of legend. Win a $20 gift card to Cafe Rio just by listening in and being caller number 12. You can learn more about the great deals available at CafeRio.com. That's CafeRio.com. JJ, a hat trick in hockey or hit for the cycle in Major League Baseball? That doesn't seem
Hit for
like
the cycle.
That doesn't seem...
Hat tricks happen all the time.
Hat tricks happen. Okay, how about...
Even more often in soccer. So
Okay, well, then
I'd
let's
take
go.
the cycle. The cycle's hard.
Okay, now hold on. Hat trick or 2 home runs in a Major League Baseball game? That's a little bit more comparable.
Hat trick.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say hat trick too if I got to keep all the hats that were thrown on the ice. That's I feel like that's what the reward should be for somebody who gets a hat trick. You don't
Why
get a trophy.
would you want the hats?
There's probably some cool ones in there.
Probably stink.
Well, I mean they weren't worn by the
You want
hockey
to wear
players.
someone else's hat? That's weird.
I'll take it to the dry cleaner. Is that what you do with hats? Take them to the dry cleaner?
What do they charge at the dry cleaner for cleaning a hat? I've never heard of that.
How much to dry clean a hat? Well, how many do you have? 748. I had a hat trick last night in the NHL.
I'm going to frame them like trophies in my trophy room.
There'll probably be some cool ones on there. All right.
Probably not.
I'm going to go with 2 home runs in Major League Baseball. That's where I'm at.
You're just trying to be different.
No. Because I think a home run, they say that's the hardest thing to do, right? Hit a fastball in all of sports. So I would take the home run. The home run feels more like that's the one that would feel crazy to me.
If you're Aaron Judge, aren't you supposed to hit home runs?
Yeah. I ain't Aaron
Nobody
Judge.
says, "Oh, you play soccer, you play hockey." Like you're supposed to get a hat trick.
Yeah.
This is hard.
Yep. All right.
Otherwise, we see home runs in Major League Baseball every night. We see multiple home run games probably once a week. How often do you see a hat trick in the NHL?
Would you rather be Justin Fields or Bryce Young right now? We're watching
Justin Fields, because I feel like
watching
Justin
but
Fields.
look how sad he is right now, though. He's so
I
sad.
feel like he rejuvenated his career a bit. Bryce Young's in a position where does he get his next chance?
Well, they're going to keep him. They're going to keep him on for a while. Justin Fields, I don't know when he's going to start another football game. That's the problem there.
I don't know when Bryce Young's going to start another football game. They benched their number 1 pick. They're going to start over.
With the
Because
ginger.
they're going to have the number 1 pick this year because they stink.
All right.
There you go.
Oh, they're going to get Shadur? Okay.
Not if Jerry Jones can help it.
Covering the Utes better than anyone else. This is Ute Insider Steve Bartle of KSLSports.com on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome on in, everybody. It is 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Alex Keary, Jeremiah Jensen. Our program is brought to you by G2G Bars. All natural ingredients and no preservatives make the G2G Bar perfect for anybody who needs a quick, tasty, nutritious boost. You can get it at Costco, Holiday Oil, Maverick, Associated Foods, all in the refrigerated section because they don't have preservatives and they are fresh. Joining us right now, top of the hour, The Cut is where we're going to start things off here. Steve Bartle, our weekly dive into the Ute Insider for KSL Sports. Let's get to The Cut right here.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is what made the cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The Cut this hour brought to you by an incredible selection of Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's all part of the family of Doug Smith dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Go check it out. Doug Smith. He is Steve Bartle. Steve, thanks for being with us on the program, man. What a weird week for Utah. I would say that a net positive, though, considering that so many – I think you had some headway here. When you name Isaac Wilson the starter and say, hey, Cam Rising's out for the season, at least you know what the future looks like for the rest of this season.
I think there's certainly the potential to be a big positive for Utah, and I think at the very least, what you get out of this is clarity, right? And I think that has been something that we've kind of realized and learned this week is that as much as you want to prepare for Cam Rising's return, and as much as you want to prepare Isaac Wilson, in the event that Cam can't go, that sort of served as a distraction, maybe, and maybe distraction isn't the best word, but obviously, Cam and Isaac are just at different levels. They're different players and they have certain strengths. And, with Cam's injury, that meant, he couldn't do certain things in the offense. And so essentially, what we've learned this week is that Utah was preparing 2 different game plans, essentially. And there's a lot of overlap between the two, but I think removing that certainly has the potential to be a positive for Utah moving forward. Obviously, you can't replace a player like Cam Rising with everything that he's done for the program, what he's meant. But I do think that just in the sense that you have clarity, you have, a guy that you are focused on and moving forward with, I think that certainly has the potential to be a big positive for Utah.
With all that said, how different will this offense look now that they are all in on game planning with Isaac Wilson as a quarterback? What strengths does Isaac have that they may play to more than they did in the past?
Yeah, I think I would say Isaac probably has a little bit more arm talent than Cam does, right? In terms of his ability to push the ball down the field with velocity. And so, you've seen that in sort of some of the throws that he's made. He's made some great throws, but there's also been a lot of bad decisions. And I think what would really benefit Utah and Isaac in particular is, giving him more options, more, easy buttons, as I like to call them, in the passing game, where you've got, check downs, you've got opportunities to get the ball out quickly. It's not that he's hanging on the ball for forever, but I think what Utah can do to help him and minimize the pressure that he faces is just giving him more direct options in the passing game to get the ball out quickly into the hands of his playmakers and things like that. I'm suggesting like screens, right? Getting the ball out to your playmakers quickly and allowing them to create after the catch. I think that is something that can benefit Utah, both in the sense that of both in terms of improving their passing efficiency, which is something that Kyle Whittingham has talked about. They're just not getting enough production on a down-to-down basis, but then also, too, on limiting the amount of pressure that Isaac will face. And I think that'll be a big thing. But Isaac has shown the ability to push the ball down the field. It's just, eliminating some of the bad decisions and raising his floor, I think will do a big service for him moving forward.
Steve, with the challenge of TCU coming in, it also is, I think, looked at as a massive opportunity because both TCU this week and then Houston next week for the Utes look like games where they can go in and look. These are opponents that struggle, and even though Utah has lost 2 games in a row, I don't think anybody looks at TCU nor Houston and think that their problems are fewer than Utah's, or are a better situation. Those are 2 teams that are struggling as programs and not just as like a singular team this year. So what's the game plan the next couple of weeks then, and how do you see the team responding based off of just how they've talked about the change this week?
Yeah, with TCU and with Houston, these are 2 programs that are struggling, right? I think I was talking with TCU insider Melissa Trubweiser of Insider Frog podcast this week, and she talked about before the season there wasn't much talk of Sonny Dykes being on the hot seat, but through 6 games, there's been a lot more discussion about this, about his seat warming up, and so it's not just that they've lost games; they're 3-on-3 on the year. But it's the fact, it's the manner in which they've lost a lot of these games that I think really has been alarming for a lot of TCU supporters. And so, TCU's coming into this one off of a bye, which, we'll see what that means for them. They, similar to Utah, with their bye, going into that bye week off a loss, Utah against Arizona. TCU went into their bye week off a loss against Houston, who is arguably at the bottom of the conference, just considering, the talent, and they're just not a program that's equipped to compete at a high level. So for Utah, with these 2 games back to back, this is an opportunity for them to get back in the win column and to build momentum going into November. And, not just looking at these programs from a bigger perspective, but focusing in on, some of the strengths and weaknesses of this TCU team. They've struggled stopping the run. I think they're second to last in run defense. So you like that matchup for Utah. You like your ability to run the ball against TCU. They put up big numbers in the passing game, but they've also turned the ball over quite a bit. Their offensive line they've rotated a number of players just trying to find the right mix of 5 guys, and it's a group that struggled. They're not very physical in the run. They haven't been very physical in the run game. They've given up pressures, and so for Utah, this is a matchup. Specifically talking about TCU, this is a matchup that you have to go into this feeling good about how you match up with this team. And so, for Utah, they have their warts too, right? Their red zone lows continue to be the biggest issue this season. You had a bye week to address those issues going into the Arizona State game, and you still only finished 1 of 4 in the red zone, in terms of getting into the end zone. So, Utah's got, a matchup against TCU that you like, their ability to move the ball, but getting into the red zone, Utah has to prove that they can punch it in, and that's going to be the big task for them. But you like how they match up both offensively and defensively with this TCU team in terms of their chances to get a win this weekend.
You look at Utah, and you just always count on the defense being great, being physical, tackling well, getting stops, being stout. That really hasn't been the case this year. What has been going on with the defense? I know you had a chance to talk to Morgan Scalley this week, and what are they doing to fix it?
It's crazy because I think us here, we've been spoiled by truly great defenses, because when you actually look at the numbers, this isn't a bad defense. This isn't a team. They are struggling with tackling, no doubt about that. The missed tackles are an issue, the biggest issue. But this is still a team that's top 15 in a number of metrics in the country in terms of defense. And how many programs would love to have a top 15 defense in the country, right? So it's just that, the bar is so high for Utah, I guess, that expectations are much higher. And certainly Utah feels that they can get to another gear or two. But this defense, they're still playing well. It's just, in these last 2 games, you get into that fourth quarter and there have been 1 or 2 plays that have gone the wrong way, big plays. And that's been the issue for this team. They're still, holding teams to 17 points a game this season, which is, you take that. If you're limiting opponents to 17 points a game, you should be winning. And unfortunately, in these last 2 games, Utah gave up 2 late scores. 2 late scores against Arizona and another late score against Arizona. And that's kind of the issue, is they're playing great for 90% of the game. It's that last 10% where they're coming up short. And for Utah specifically, you talk about those missed tackles, and it's just getting back to the fundamentals, back to the basics, wrapping up and tackling. And that's really, I think, getting back to that, playing fundamentally sound football is really going to be the key for Utah. And obviously getting Karenni back and getting Connor O'Toole back, that will help. And I think nobody will benefit more from that than Leonard Barton, who, it just seems like he's thinking a bit too much out there. And I think getting Karenni back, who may be back this weekend, it may not be till next weekend, but getting him back will be a big thing. I think this defense misses him. He's the soul of this defense and of this team, really. And so I think, he'll be a big boost once he does return to action. But again, this defense is playing good defense. It's just, they've got another gear that they've got to get into, which they're capable of, and they know that they're capable of, and they're focused on getting to that next level.
The team, obviously, 2 losses in a row is not something that they are really used to that often. And frankly, against the opponents that they lost to, I think that was the shock for, a lot of people. JJ and I were talking about Junior Tafuna, how emotional he was in the postgame. But how big of a deal was it to have a guy like Mekhi Bernard made captain this week? That's a guy who's playing his tail off. And I guess explain a little bit of how big of a deal that is that they make Mekhi a captain at this time, because it seems like he's the dude that really has been carrying this team right now.
Oh, he is, right? He has been. He's been the guy that you can count on, that you can lean on. And he's been the guy when Isaac's in there that taken on more of the vocal responsibility, in the huddle on that offensive side of the ball. And to have a guy in Mekhi Bernard who's been here since 2019, has been through the battles, has been through the ups and downs that this program has experienced, to have a guy like that, and a guy playing as well as he is, I think it means a lot to the team, and I think it certainly has the potential to benefit them moving forward. I think just with the way that he's running the ball, which is a credit to him and the work that he put in this offseason, to put on some pounds, to gain, to get stronger, and it's benefited him this season, where he's now the unquestioned RB1 and has increased his workload and what he's capable of. And I think he's a guy when you talk about Junior Tafuni and you talk about Mekhi Bernard, and there's so many other guys on this team, there are guys that genuinely love this program and genuinely care about this program. Mekhi Bernard is one of those guys. And so to have him, fill in with his captaincy, I think is a significant thing for Utah, and it has, again, the potential to pay dividends for them moving forward.
Nobody covers Utah better than you, Steve, and nobody covers Utah recruiting better than you. And there was some recruiting news today involving Utah. Spanish Fork offensive tackle Aaron Dunn, a 4-star lineman here in Utah, Spanish Fork High School, decommits from the Utes. What do you know about that situation, and how concerning is that they lost a local kid at this stage?
Yeah, it's tough, right? It's tough to lose, commitment of any stature, let alone, your top-rated commit in the class. And that's what Aaron Dunn was. He was the highest-rated guy. And when you talk about Utah football and the success that they've had, specifically on the recruiting trail, a lot of their success comes from the guys that they've brought in, offensive linemen that they've brought in, in recent years. Isaiah Garcia was the 4-star signee last year. Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, 2 guys that are in the starting lineup this year, were the top signees 2 years ago. And so to lose Aaron Dunn today it's tough, and yet it's something that Utah knew they were going to have to recruit him the rest of the way, right? He committed a couple months ago, early in August, and he committed to Utah over Oregon and USC. And you just know with those programs, with what they're doing, specifically Oregon, and with their big win and some of the momentum that they have with USC and their kind of resurgence with the influx of NIL opportunities that Lincoln Riley has talked about there. They have certainly continued to chip away at Aaron Dunn, and that's led to his decommitment today. And so, I look at those teams, Oregon and USC, as the 2 teams that are most squarely in the mix for him. And I think I would even call USC the leader to potentially land his commitment moving forward. So, that's just kind of the tough part. It's the ebbs and flows of college football recruiting. Is the job isn't finished until they put ink to paper, and that's still 2 months away. So Utah's got some time to get back on the recruiting trail, maybe identify a guy that they'd like to bring in, and go from there. But certainly the loss of Aaron Dunn is tough, but it's one that, at offensive line, just considering the depth that they have at the position, and considering the guys that they brought in recent classes, you still feel optimistic about the future of the offensive line beyond this season. They only lose 2 seniors from this group, and so a lot of this same offensive line group will be back next year, and that's the focus, for Utah moving forward.
Steve Bartle, KSLSports.com is where you can find his byline. He does a phenomenal job. Follow him online as well on all the socials to be able to get the up-to-date news with the University of Utah. Utes and Horned Frogs. That's one that's fun to say. Taking on one another up at Ricycle Stadium on Saturday night. It's going to be a late one, Steve. 8:30 kickoff, and I don't think it's going to be as cold as Friday, but certainly we've turned the tide on the weather. So looking forward to this one. A couple of teams who have got that old school past. It's going to be fun to watch. So thanks for hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thanks,
there you
Steve.
Go. Steve Bartle.
Good info. There you go.
The Aaron Dunn thing was. I'm glad you brought it up because I was listening this morning. I follow his dad, I think, on social media somewhere because we had some connection years ago for something else.
Right.
And so I've watched this kid's process, and everybody wants Aaron Dunn. And when Utah got him, it was like hometown, awesome, great. But you see the pictures of all the other places he's getting recruited from too, and then you kind of go, man. And if doubt starts to creep in a little bit, if Utah's 6-0 right now, does Aaron Dunn decommit?
Yes.
Something else.
Because I think this is not about win-loss records. I think this is I'm not going to sit here. I don't know. I haven't talked to him and his family.
Cha-ching.
Look. Okay, let's just hypothetically speaking. You're an 17, 18-year-old kid, and your dream is to play college football. But all these great schools want you, and one team or two teams are willing to pay twice as much as the other. We're all human beings. Like right now, if somebody offers you a job anywhere, like, so what if like this amazing credit union comes in?
Hey, segue.
And they're just the best at what they do, and they can offer you 5 times as much as wherever you're working. You're
gonna take it.
to talk, right?
Let's go.
I mean, nothing. He hasn't committed to anybody else yet, but
okay.
You got to say, look, Utah. I gotta look at these. I got to look at these other places because I'm human and these are great. So
well, that's a good point.
I understand it, and you're talking. This is a kid.
Yeah.
I know he doesn't look like one, but he's a kid and he's got to make the right choice for his life. This is his choice.
Yeah,
it's none of our choice. So we all need to just let him make his own choice.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. The Aggies welcome in Bronco Mendenhall as the New Mexico Lobos invade Logan. Catch all the play-by-play action on your radio home of the Aggies. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
I think they fought really hard. I really like our battle, our competitiveness. It's 5 out of 8 on that trip. It's a comeback in the third we were down by 1 after 2. So I think all in all, there's a lot of positive.
That was Coach Andre Bear Tourney. I think you could hear the teeth gritting while he was saying it. I think there are a lot of positives coming out of that game. If you watched the game last night with Utah Hockey Club falling to Anaheim 5-4 in overtime, which is good for a point, by the way. I was talking to somebody the other day. They go, how's that work? I said, well, the point system goes like this. You get 2 for the win. If you go to overtime, you're at least getting 1.
Look at people coming to you for hockey knowledge.
Yeah. Oh,
and you delivering
all day. So last night I'm watching, and it was just a defensive lapse, and I don't know I didn't see today what the deal was with Bortuzzo, who was hurt.
I don't think there's been an update on his injury status.
So he limped off. Yeah. So at the very least, you're going to see the words lower body, not upper body in hockey. It's going to be the lower body. Those are the only 2 parts of. There's an old Seinfeld bit. Do you ever remember this? When he goes, this is how we see the public. You have the face and the mouth that leads down to the circle area where the problem is. Like, that was basically how they would show you how medicines work. That's how hockey works, too. They're all, this faceless thing that is either upper body or lower body. And Bortuzzo goes out, and that was a problem because they're already down Sean Dursey, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to get negative here, but I'm watching this game last night, and anytime that there was a little bit of a defensive meltdown or when Bortuzzo got hurt and they were actually down, it was a 2-man advantage for Anaheim. Bear was about ready to jump into the crowd and kill somebody. He was absolutely like his face looked as mean as you can get a coach's face. You know what I mean? And I was like, that Bear is not happy. And it was interesting to see because they were down 4-3. They come back, make it 4-4. They send it to overtime, and the momentum was on their side. And how quickly, if you've been watching hockey like we have over the past little while, it's not just now regular season hockey is very different, and it's beginning of the year. You know what you're seeing right now is, and you can see how quickly a game can turn. You can see how quickly that can turn. You can see that one errant pass can lead to the puck bouncing in a weird way and just being a goal for the other team immediately. Mistakes they totally get taken advantage of at this pro level. Like they hardly ever miss. So if you give up a puck deep in your zone and it's a one-on-one with the goalie, that's a hard one to try to defend and try to ask Connor Ingram to defend. So they've been giving up a lot of goals, JJ. Lots of goals on this blue line where we've been told it's been much improved. And I think you're going to see some progress through the year as they try to figure out what the best lines are. And obviously if they get some guys back from injury. But, man, it was but Dylan Guenther is, I still think, number 1 in the league with goals, 5.
It's crazy. And he didn't even score on Wednesday.
Yeah.
My take on the game is it was heartbreaking because I felt like they played good enough to win.
Yeah.
You look at that game, and it was just like this whiplash, right? So Utah takes the 2-1 lead after the first period. You're like, this is exactly how it's supposed to be. They're supposed to beat the Ducks. The Ducks aren't good. And then the second period goes on a completely different swing. You're like, ugh, what's going on? Maybe they're tired after that long trip. But then they give you hope again in the third period. Clayton Keller gets that goal. 11 minutes in, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna pull away here and win this. They've got all the momentum, and then boom, 4 minutes later. It's just the swings in hockey are crazy, and if you're new to the sport, you're experiencing that right now. You think you got it in the bag, and then all of a sudden, boom, something happens. The momentum swings. Things can go the other way. So I thought I had so much confidence in them going to overtime. I was like, they got to overtime. At least they're going to pull off what they did against the Isles and the Rangers. Well, it flipped on them, and that's hockey. It's tough. But big picture, okay? That was not the result everybody wanted. Disappointing loss. I feel like Utah Hockey Club's a better team than the Ducks, but the Ducks were better on Wednesday night. But big picture, this is a long, tough road trip. You play 3 Stanley Cup contenders in the East in their barns. You come away with 4 points in those 3 games. You beat the Rangers at MSG.
Yeah.
You get those overtime wins. They were thrilling, and in an opportunity in a big market like that with a lot of eyeballs on you to show what Utah Hockey Club is all about. And then you come back and get a point in Anaheim. You get 5 points out of 8 on a road trip like that.
That's pretty good.
Across the country and back.
Yeah.
You take that anytime. They should be thrilled where they're at right now. You look at the standings, Alex. Is it too early? Is it way too early to look at the standings?
It's way too early, but give it to me.
All right, sorry, fans. I'm bringing up the standings, but just because we're new to this in the NHL, I wanted to get you a little bit excited about this. But they are only 1 point back of the Dallas Stars, who were in the Western Conference Final last year. And many believe this is the Stars' year to win the Cup. And they're just 1 point behind them. Who's at the bottom in the Central?
Oh, I feel bad about this, but it's the Colorado Avalanche.
I'm giving you a chance to crap on the Avalanche or crap on anything Colorado.
I told you I was trying to be positive. I think you mean Western Nebraska, by the way, not Colorado.
Western Kansas.
Western Kansas.
That's even worse.
Excuse me. Yes, it's a plain state. It's not a mountainous city. Okay, this is our city.
Have you been to the
mountains.
airport in Denver? That's all you need to know. You've seen Kansas if you've been to that airport.
All right, so listen. I was a little bit bummed though because overtime short, 5 minutes, and each one of them have ended. None of them have gone to shootout so far this year. They've ended pretty quickly.
You want that shootout, don't you?
Give me the shootout, okay? If we're going to do it, I know we were only a minute and a half away or something like that from the shootout last night, but this is why I love when they adopted these newer rules for overtime. Regular season shootouts are phenomenal. I want to see it. I want to see it every night. Okay. Bear Tourney, by the way, going to be on our program tomorrow on a Friday. He's going to join us all season long on Fridays. I'm a little bit scared of Bear. Is that? I know he's nice, but I still fear the man.
Look, normally I'd be like, come on, Alex, but the guy's nickname is Bear.
Yeah.
That's pretty intimidating.
And he's got that French Canadian accent, so obviously the hockey knowledge. He's been nice.
His nickname's not Sparky.
No,
it's Bear. Right?
He'll come at you. He looks like he looks like he'd be cast in a movie as a bad guy that is one of the thugs that is sent to kill you. Am I wrong?
Does he look like a Bond villain?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, you need like more facial scars to be a Bond villain.
He looks like a mercenary or something?
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, he looks like the. No, he looks
is
like
that your first question for Bear on Friday? Is have you killed anyone?
Have you been a hitman?
Have you done it for hire?
Have you been a hitman? All right. We'll
maybe we should skip that question tomorrow.
We should.
We got it out of our system now.
That's good.
Don't ask that question tomorrow.
First, by the way, tomorrow when he joins us, we're going to be giving out the keyword for some tickets as well. The keyword for tomorrow when you tune in to our interview with Coach Bear Tourney is going to be Bruins or Bruin. If he says Bruin, we'll take it because he's not big on the plurals with the French Canadian accent. Okay, so Bruin or Bruins. It's going to be the keyword for tomorrow. So when you hear that during our interview, you can win a pair of tickets to the Utah Hockey Club. Hottest seat in town. Would you agree?
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Okay, boom. There you go. All right, we'll take the break. I also want to mention that Mitch Harper and I do a show on the weekends on KSL News Radio and on the KSL Sports Zone at the same time. It's called First and 12, every Sunday, 10 to noon, brought to you by Macy's Grocery Store, the freshest fruits and vegetables from local farms and your favorite local brands. Macy's Happy Shopping. We give you a full breakdown of the Big 12 as it happened the night before. All right, we'll come back. We've got more to go right around the corner. Stay with us. Let's chat a little bit more about this Oklahoma State team and whatever their quarterback situation is going to be. We'll break it down because we'll give you 3 names. Could be one of those guys. We'll have our guesses as to which one it's actually going to be. Stay with us, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? The Utes return home to the Hill to take on an old familiar foe in TCU. Your home for the best coverage of Utah football is right here on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone.
All right, everybody, welcome back. JJ and Alex, 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. Tomorrow we're going to we're hitting the road again, right? Football Friday?
We'll be in Orem.
Provo. It's game day in Provo tomorrow. And we're going to do our show from the Cafe Rio there in Provo on North University Parkway. And then we'll transition to the Cougar pregame show, which is, of course, where Jake Hatch and I do our Cougar pregame show every week. So there you go. We'll be out there tomorrow. And we'll be chatting a lot about BYU, and we're going to be forcing Sly to chat a lot about BYU and Utah State. So we're going to have it all right there for you. We're just going to be down there in Provo. You know, the most red that could ever be worn in a single building, that will be Sly tomorrow.
He's going to go over the top, isn't he?
Oh, boy. I've been in a lot of these pregame shows down at Cafe Rio. It's a lot of blue because these people are all eating before the game, and it's going to be a stark.
It's just down the road from the stadium, so yeah.
Look, it's going to be Sly's moment, man. He will have no problem with the red and black that he sports on Football Fridays. No problem. Oklahoma State. We've been asking the question all week. Is it going to be Garrett Rangel? Is it going to be the Flores kid who's the freshman out of Frisco, Texas, or whatever it is? Is it going to be Alan Bowman, the 7th-year senior who has not been able to get it right? I don't know, and they're trying to be coy about it, but I think odds-on favorite put Garrett Rangel as the starting quarterback on tomorrow night in Provo. Sound right?
On3 is reporting that Oklahoma State head coach Mike Gundy is benching Alan Bowman for Garrett Rangel.
There you go.
There you go. And it made sense. They have a bye week. They need a spark. They need a change. And so BYU will be facing a different quarterback than maybe some expected. So Garrett Rangel will be the Oklahoma State starter. Interesting. I mean, we saw him against Utah. I didn't really think he changed the game much when he got in, but that's tough to ask a backup quarterback to do.
Yeah, it was the thing about that game, and I think the thing that BYU is really going to be banking on, and this is why this team is so much better this year than it was last year, they're able to put a defense on the field that might actually be the better unit of the two, and that'll be scary for an Oklahoma State team who cannot get their running game going. If you're going to ask a brand new quarterback to come in and try to figure it out, that's a tough ask on a really, really good defense in a hostile environment. And it bodes well for BYU's offense to be able to just do what they've done all season, which is clean up all the things that the defense has set up for them, right?
I can't imagine this guy's going to make their offensive line better. I can't imagine he's going to make their run game better. That's their problem. That's what we thought they were going to be this year, and they don't have that. That explains their struggles.
Yeah, 5th in forced turnovers are the Cougs this year. They are, I think, 11th in the country in turnover differential per game, but they are +7 in the turnover margin this year. Jay Hill, worth every penny. There you go.
Your home for the best college football coverage in Utah is on the KSL Sports Zone. Ready? It's a Friday night showdown in Provo as the Cougars square off against Oklahoma State. Your home for the best coverage of Cougar football is right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. This is JJ and Alex, presented by G2G Bars on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Welcome back, everybody. It's another edition of JJ and Alex, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Jeremiah Jensen to my right, Alex Curie here. Our program brought to you by G2G Bars, as the voice said. And also, this hour, we're jumping straight in here. This is going to be a lot of fun for us all basketball season long. We're welcoming in Big T, Thurl Bailey to the program with the cut. Let's jump in right here, top of the hour.
It's time for the biggest story of the day. This is What Made the Cut with JJ and Alex on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Thurl Bailey joining us on the program. Big T, thanks for being with us. How's it going, man?
What's up? I'm doing well. I'm sitting here in, it's not even raining in Portland. But it wants to.
We're getting it. I was going to say, we're getting it out
here. How is
here.
it raining here and not in Portland?
We're getting it here.
I know, man. Isn't that crazy? How you guys doing?
We're good.
We're good, Big T. How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm ready. I'm ready, man.
The weather turning.
Put me in, Coach.
Yeah, the weather turning means that we start to think a lot more about basketball now, and the preseason wraps up, and the Jazz fire off next week in the regular season. What do you do to prepare for every season, like the year in and year out grind? Thurl, like what really is it that you have to do to kind of get yourself kind of mentally and I would imagine physically ready for all the rigor of the season?
I go 2 a days. No, I'm kidding.
You start doing some gassers, yeah.
I was going to say, Thurl, you're retired. You don't have to do that anymore.
No, I don't. I think what I normally do is I try to keep up on anything that happens, obviously during the off season with players, where they go, who signs who. Specifically with the Jazz, we just kind of keep up with all the transactions that are going on and anything that Justin and Danny are talking about as far as what they're trying to do move-wise. But really, there's not a lot to do until, you get the media day and the guys who are pretty much going to be sticking around, the young players that are coming in. And, of course, we hit Summer League, and so we get a lot of information there. But it's not really until we get going do we kind of get to know what to expect throughout the course, like the lineups. The team will be narrowed down, right, and guys will be sent to the G League or getting minutes. We're just thrown right into it.
Before we get into some individual players and some of the storylines for this season, I wanted to ask you about the youth movement because the management's been very clear about where this team is at and what they want to accomplish this season. We're going to see a lot of young players play, a lot of young players develop. As for fans that are watching, what can they look for with that? What can they be excited about with that? Because obviously there's not this we're going to go win a title motivation this year, but there's a lot of joy that could be had by watching some of these young players go out there and get better each and every night.
Yeah, I kind of liken it a little bit to, having kids yourself, right? At a certain point, you try to help develop them the best you can, and then they get to a point where they're taking all that information and they're going and trying to get to the next level. And I think historically with the Utah Jazz, it's been the team of this state and of this city. So they've been able to kind of grow with players over the years and watch them develop and enjoy their work ethic, knowing that it's not going to be a championship run or maybe in some cases even a playoff run. So our fans are Jazz Nation's pretty astute with that. But I think there's some excitement in, one, what the players like Keontae George, who's had a year here, and Walker Kessler, who's in his third, watching them get better and watching them be all in with this movement. And so I think that's what we can look forward to. I think, of course, there are going to be teams who come in and underestimate us at their place and at ours, and there's going to be some surprises, some exciting things with some of these young players. But I also think the mix of the veterans and the young players who are learning from them is going to be, we've seen some of that in the preseason. And so there's a lot of different elements, and we're going to win some games. People probably think we shouldn't win. And then we're going to have some days are going to have their difficult times. And that's the sign of a team that, you hope has bought in, because it's the tough moments. You want to see how they really come out and compete.
We did this a couple of years ago where we were like youth movement, a lot of young guys coming in, a lot of names you're not that familiar with. At that point, you didn't know the type of impact that we were going to see out of, Larry Markin in that first year becomes an all-star for his first year in Salt Lake City, what Colin Sexton was going to do. All these guys who come in and do it. Is there a version of, and I'm not trying to ask you to get people's hopes up here, but like this is what we were saying a couple of years ago before that team really started out strong and started quick. Is there a version of that can happen this year? You said they could win some games that people don't expect them to win. Again, not trying to make the expectations high, but at the same time, like sometimes these professional basketball players surprise you, and they go out and they compete every night.
Look, we've got some really good players on this Jazz team. And I don't mean just the veterans. I don't mean just the Jordan Clarksons and John Collins, and Colin Sextons. I think the chemistry really is the first thing that Jazz Nation will really start to get a hang of, how these guys really connect and go out and play. But I just think that if you understand what Justin and Danny and Will Hardy are trying to do here, they're trying to put the best players on the floor. And with that, you give these young players who may not totally be NBA ready, but there's some really good signs that they can develop on the fly. And I've seen that already in the preseason. So are there going to be rough nights? Absolutely, there will be. But understanding what these guys are going to try to give you every single night, I just think that development is going to be something that Jazz Nation is going to enjoy, getting to know these young players, their personalities, but also getting to see a guy like Larry Markkinen get the keys to the city and say, hey, all right, now you've been here long enough. You're a great player. Let's go out and try to show it every single night.
You played for some great coaches over the years, some of the all-time greats. So you know what it takes to be a great coach, and I'm sure you've also seen what it takes to be a not great coach in the NBA. What attributes does Will Hardy have that you've seen in these 3 years that gives you confidence that he's going to be an elite coach in this league?
Well, when Will first came in, I think some of the attributes that you need as a head coach, there's some that take priority over others. So I think communication is probably the most important. I mean, you're dealing with high-valued assets here, and especially in the young players, you've got to be able to be on their level. You've got to be able to coach them hard, but also understand that there's only a certain, with each individual player, you've got to have that kind of relationship where you got to tell them like it is, and they've got to understand that. And they might not like it, but they understand, the structure of what the Jazz are trying to do. And Will has just been amazing at his communication factor from the beginning. And even now, I think it's a little different, especially with the younger players. I mean, you're coaching 19, 20-year-olds, right? So your coaching is a lot different than you coaching Jordan Clarkson, right, who's been around in the league. You don't have to coach him as much because you know what you're going to get from him, but you need his help and buying into, the type of team that we've been talking about. So, yeah, I think that, and just the fact that, this game is similar across the league where there's a lot of options out there, a lot of screening, a lot of, maybe you call it something different. So that part I think is important with your coaching staff that is bought in as well, to be able to help the development of these young players on the court and off the court.
Thurl Bailey, of course, joins us here on the program. Big T is going to be with us all season long on Thursdays to walk us through what this Jazz team's doing. Tomorrow night, last preseason game of the preseason before the season gets serious next Wednesday. What have you learned about these guys in these handful of preseason games that you've watched?
Well, like any preseason, right? I think it's even more truncated now. And if you ask most of the coaches, I think they would prefer, maybe to have more practices. But you have to, these as a player, you just get tired of playing against your own guys, right? You know each other well, and it's like, you look for something different. I think the preseason games really come into play, having these guys go out and try to demonstrate it in a real-life game situation. So what I've seen in particular as each game has gone on is just a progression of chemistry, a mixture of, vets and young players. Even in San Antonio, when, there were key players who did not play, I thought a guy like Cody Williams really showed what he's capable of in that situation. A guy like Isaiah Collier, before his hammy injury, you could tell that physically he's ready for this league, and I think he's going to make a lot of noise early on. So going into the regular season, of course, you've got to cut the roster down. You've got to cut your rotation to the guys you're going to play. But I think it served its purpose in really putting these young guys right into the fire and seeing who needs more development in the G League, right, who might be getting a little more time than expected. Yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun to be close to it and watch that development happen.
The Jazz made a big commitment in the offseason to Lauri Markkanen. We know he's definitely going to be here all season long. He gets an extension. And it's just been fascinating, Thurl, to watch him blossom here in Utah into an all-star player. You've been around the league in basketball a long time. How do you describe what he does in his game? He's almost like a unicorn. I don't know if that's the right way to use to describe him. Is there anybody that he reminds you of in the league during your time in basketball, and what do you expect from him this season?
I really have not seen a guy his size and his build be able to do all the things that he can do, and specifically talking offensively. I mean, he is kind of an anomaly in the fact that he can play without the basketball, coming off screens. You can set all kinds of schemes up to get him open. But he is so freaking athletic, and he is a guy who, one of the best in the league at the catch and shoot three. And now I think you'll see the Jazz put him in situations more where he can be isolated and have an advantage. He'll be at the nail a lot, right there in the middle of the free throw line, and you'll see him have to make a play. And I think that's the difference in what you'll end up seeing this year. Is he is trying to become more of a playmaker instead of a guy who once he touches it, he's going to get you a good shot, whether at the basket or whether from the three-point line. I think as he has been working on his ball handling, you get 2 or 3 dribbles into a move and they send another guy at you. You've got to be able to make the best play and know where the guys are around you. So I think that's his next step. But I've seen some really good signs of that in the preseason. But Lauri, man, I mean, I can't think of any other player that has all the different kind of attributes that he has. I mean, there's guys like Kevin Durant who are that tall and can play like a point guard, but Lauri is different in the fact that I think he can be just amazing on both ends, actually.
Patty Mills comes in, same age as Will Hardy, by the way, just in case you're keeping.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. What does a presence like a Patty Mills in the locker room do? We know the veteran leadership of a guy like Jordan Clarkson, but sometimes he's not necessarily the vocal guy. Is Patty Mills that guy that comes in and is just an extension of another coach and a guy who, is obviously not going to be playing a ton of more seasons, but they brought him in for a reason. And what do you think that reason is?
Well, he's already said it. He knows his role. His role is to be an extension of the coach. His role is to help these young players mature, and not just the young players. I mean, we talked to Jordan Clarkson, I think in one of his press conference, he says, "Hey, I'm fangirling over Patty Mills," and that's just a kind of basketball legacy, if you will, that he's kind of created throughout his career. Whether it's with the San Antonio, the Olympics, he's a guy that has a great journey, a great story, and just worked hard to do it. You've got a guy who's won a championship. So I'm hoping that these young players are sponges and they just try to pick his brain. But I think a lot of times you'll see him when there's timeouts and the coaches are out in the little coaches huddle. He's going to be the coach on the bench, just making sure these guys, again, especially in the difficult times, right? I mean, everybody can cheer when things are going right, but you need somebody in that locker room, even when the coaches aren't in there, because I'm not sure the last couple of years, if there's a players-only meeting that need to be had, who's going to run that, right? Who's the guy who's going to step up and call that meeting? Patty Mills is one of those guys, right? He's been through it all, and I think that in turn, that's going to help. We always talk about basketball development. That's another part of it. And so I think Patty is going to be just a great asset, and he's still got game.
Keontae George, everyone's excited about his future, had a solid rookie season. What do you want to see from him in year 2?
Oh, I love what Keontae's done with this game. He's got something, and it's not just about basketball. He's got this confidence about him that helps. I think it's helped that development come sooner. And so I just like to see the leadership part of what Keontae is going to be asked to do develop this season. And we've seen a lot of it in the preseason. I thought we saw some last year when they threw him at the end of the season. It just threw him in there and said, hey, go lead us. You go make your mistakes, get them out of your system, learn from them. Get tired, because you got to know what kind of shape you've got to be in this coming year to run this team. And I think Keontae's done a really good job of being a floor general, but also being selfish enough to know I got to get mine too in my situations. And that balance, I think, is really what coaches are looking for him to be able to get better at this year.
I just want to call you Coach too, because I feel like we're getting coached up every week. Big T gives us the lowdown, man. We're looking forward to this, Thurl. We're looking forward to being able to get the download every week. Have fun out there in Portland. Should be a fun one tomorrow, and then we get our big boy pants on. Get the real games going on next Wednesday. We're excited, man.
It's go time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anytime, guys. Thanks for having me this season. I'm excited. Excited to be with you every Thursday.
Thanks, Big T.
There you go, Big T. Thurl Bailey, everybody. Oh man, it's honestly like I fangirl over Big T every time we have him on. We have
if 12-year-old me knew what I was just doing for the last 15 minutes, I'm telling you, we're very fortunate to have Thurl Bailey in our community. Number one, number two, to have him analyzing the Jazz every night, and number three, having him on a show.
Yeah,
love it.
It's gonna be awesome. Appreciate him taking the time every Thursday this season. It's going to be awesome.
Alex bring you the NFL Blitz on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Wow. All right. Welcome back. Oh, my gosh. I don't want to go full Jake Scott right here, but I just got an email from Costco about Santa Claus, and we haven't even had freaking Halloween yet. I know, but now it's like honestly, it's just filling up my feed over here. Can't stand it. Let me just go from one to the other. I'm okay to go from Halloween kind of into Christmas. You know what I mean? But because we don't really have a. Wait,
I'm a traditionalist. I don't want to think about Christmas until
December 1.
The Friday after Thanksgiving.
Yeah, okay.
We can talk about it at that point.
All right.
But I need to eat my pumpkin pie
Pumpkin.
before I have any thoughts about Christmas Day.
Is that the Wyoming pronunciation of pumpkin? Pumpkin.
Must have been.
Pumpkin pie.
I'm gonna go eat pumpkin pie by the creek.
By the creek, the old pumpkin. Yes, our NFL Blitz. It's that time of the show for us to get into it here. You can listen to the KSL Sports Zone, by the way, like I said, all throughout the hockey season. The Utah Hockey Club is going to be hooking you up with some tickets along with the KSL Sports Zone on Fridays, starting tomorrow. During our show, we're going to have Bear Turney on. Coach Andre Turney is going to join us. And when you hear the keyword Bruins, then be calling number 12. All right? So one lucky listener is going to get a pair of tickets to the Utah Hockey Club versus the Boston Bruins. Weird to say. October 19th. It's going to be awesome. So listen every Friday right here in the radio home of the Utah Hockey Club, the KSL Sports Zone. That's pretty fun to say, too. Isn't it?
It is. It's pretty cool.
It is awesome.
We're proud.
Okay, so Tom Brady. I don't know if you know this. He's now minority owner. Was that like how much are we talking here?
10%?
No, I don't even think it's that.
Really?
No, I think we're in the single digits, the low single digits too.
Okay.
And that being the case, the NFL feels okay saying that Tom Brady could call games for his own team that he owns. That seems a little bit weird, doesn't it? Although at the same time, what is he going to say during the game?
Imagine him calling games for the games he's playing in.
I would be
He
more.
would try.
I'd be more. But see, if he was calling the Patriots games, you wouldn't go, no. There's a conflict of interest here. He won 6 Super Bowls with those guys. We can't have him in there calling that game. You wouldn't.
Right.
I know there's a financial stake in the Raiders, but he's not going to be like, wow, I would buy as much Raiders gear at LasVegasRaiders.com right now as soon as I could. But that's just me. I'm Tom Brady, owner of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't see a problem with it anyway. I don't know. Do you? Are you one of those guys that's like, give me Ian Eagle and Greg Olson. Otherwise, I can't have anybody.
Yeah, I probably if he did, I wouldn't think anything of it. Like you, I'd probably have more of an issue with him calling Patriots games than or Bucks games than I would. Imagine him trying to be impartial when he's calling a Bucks
game.
Saints game.
Oh,
Who do you think he's? So, you know what I mean? Maybe not. Maybe I don't know. Maybe.
Hey, that beef with Baker Mayfield's fake.
Maybe
okay?
Tom Brady's just loyal to whoever's paying him, and right now that's Fox.
Hey, by the way,
the Raiders thing is, you think about it, and I understand why other owners might have an issue with it, and that's what really matters, right? That's who's in charge here is the owners. So if the other owners have a problem with Tom Brady calling Raiders games because he's a part owner of the Raiders, then I get why it's a problem.
I just saw this. They announced the actual games for the Christmas doubleheader. Did you see that? I said Ian Eagle, and it reminded me. So Ian Eagle is going to be calling one of the games with, I think, Nate Burleson, right? And then his son, Noah Eagle, is going to be calling the other game with Greg Olson. That one is the Ravens-Texans? Yeah, Ravens-Texans is one of them. I don't know what the first game is. Jeremy, will you find what the first game was?
I think it's Steelers-Chiefs. Let me check, though.
Okay. Oh. I'm so sad that Chris Collinsworth isn't able to call that Chiefs game. He just gets so much hate after he calls those games because they're like, you love Patrick Mahomes, don't you?
The early game is Steelers-Chiefs.
Steelers-Chiefs. Ian Eagle and Nate Burleson. There you go.
Well, you could have Chris Collinsworth and Jack Collinsworth calling the game together. And just
boy.
chuckling the whole time.
So, also on part of the of that same TV crew, by the way, is J.J. Watt with Ian Eagle. That's kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
That's Sunday doubleheader. Listen, isn't it funny that in my head they're like, oh yeah, it's groundbreaking. Because it's on Netflix. That's the whole thing that makes it different. That's the reason it's kind of weird. A live Netflix NFL doubleheader. I don't know if I'm going to like it. Because so far, now I'll take anything on Christmas when you're just fat and happy sitting there in your living room.
As long as just Christmas is the exception. I don't want to see Wednesday Night Football. Because the Thursday, look, I love football, man. I love the NFL, but how many Thursday night games are great?
But didn't they say that they're no, not a lot.
Right.
But so what is it? How many days straight of football games is it? It's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So what they're going to do is basically, it's crazy. But again, that's the time of year you want it because The bowl games are not good at that point. And you get through a Christmas doubleheader, and then the next week you're already into New Year's 6 games. Boom. Do we call them that anymore?
Playoff games.
Playoff games. Okay. Ooh, the playoff. That's happening this year.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
55 straight days of football
Yeah,
is
man.
underway right now.
Woo!
We're in the middle of it.
I love
Started
it.
October 3rd.
That's great.
Are you really watching college football games on Tuesday nights?
So last night,
Did you watch the UTEP Miners?
No, I did not.
You're a sicko if you did.
I do not. Even though my brother
Come
played
on, Georgia
for
State
UTEP.
Marshall. It's 11-0 right now. Marshall's ahead.
Marshall's winning 11-0 over Georgia Tech.
Georgia State.
Oh, I thought you said Georgia Tech. I was like, the team that started it all with Florida State. No. Last night I turned on Sam Houston. Oh, was it UTEP? No, it wasn't UTEP. It was like Sam Houston and
Western
Kentucky.
Yeah, the Hill Tapas. All right. Yeah, it was something. It was football. It was on.
Conference USA has sold their soul to the devil.
For Wednesday night
Sunbelt
football.
too. Tuesday night Sunbelt game. My gosh.
Oh,
Where's the Mac?
Bring the action back, dude.
Where is the Mac?
I love it. So Josh Allen this year has no interceptions. Okay, last year he threw 18, and it's crazy because the Bills are now 4-2, and Josh Allen has thrown 0 interceptions. Phenomenal turnaround for Josh Allen, by the way. I didn't know that he had thrown 0 interceptions. I just assumed he had like 5 or 6. Because at this point last year he did. He had like 5 or 6.
Why does it
3 or
feel
4 games
then
into
that
the
the
season.
Bills are less dynamic right now than they were last year?
Hey, you
Right? Am I
you
alone
hold
in
your
that?
tongue. They just got Amari Cooper.
Okay.
They're going to be great now. Now they can take off. But yes, it was. It's a pretty interesting read over at Pro Football Talk about how he's turned things around. He made a massive commitment to not throw interceptions this year. I thought that was good of him. You're paid to throw touchdowns.
They're
not
4-2,
interceptions.
barely. So I guess it's working.
There you go. Next up here. Jeff Fisher. You remember Jeff Fisher? He won a Super Bowl with the greatest show on turf, right?
With the Rams?
Oh, he lost that one. Oh, sorry. Did that?
Oh man, that's awkward.
Oof. I didn't want to. I don't want to make anybody
Jeff
feel
Fisher
bad.
is the king of 8-8 back when they had 16 games.
Hey, but he gave you the
They
music.
always
He gave you
finished
the
8-8.
Music City Miracle, though. He gave you the Music City Miracle, and the creepy mustache and the mullet. It was classic. It was a classic look. 12 coaches have been nominated for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jeff Fisher's one of them. Does he make it?
No.
Career 512 winning percentage.
Yeah, 173, 165, and a tie.
By 173, he's only 160 off of Don Shula's win. If he gets into coaching right now and has a handful of 16-1 seasons, he'll catch him in about 10 years. It's great. He should be good.
He made the playoffs 6 times in 23 seasons as a head coach.
Okay.
6 times in 23 years.
All right. Put him in the hall.
He's 12th all time in wins. So
12th all time in wins. See, he's the
again. How what did I just say?
He's the Matt. What's his name? Who's the Falcons' old quarterback? He's the Matt Ryan of coaching. Yeah, he's up there on the list of a lot of passes.
He only had more than 8 wins in 6 seasons.
Yeah, that's not bad.
In 22?
Went to a bowl. Went to the Super Bowl.
He's the king of mediocrity.
Speaking of king of mediocrity.
I did not expect to wake up today bashing Jeff Fisher, but here we are.
Oh, my goodness. Speaking of mediocrity, what's the game tonight? Is there a Thursday night game tonight?
Broncos Saints.
Broncos and Saints.
Let's ride.
Let's do it. All right. Let's take a break here. We'll come back. We got more to go. Best and worst is next. Don't want to miss any of it. By the way, catch Hans and Scotty at El Matador tomorrow in Bountiful, 606 South Main, noon to 3. Go check it out. Usually there's some phenomenal deals you can get. They do the hot salsa there. Go. I'm not saying hot like spicy. I'm saying it's yes, it is both actually. It's good. Go check it out at El Matador. That's where Hans and Scotty are going to be. All right, taking the break. More to go. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Wrapping up the hour with our picks for the best and worst moments on today's show. As JJ and Alex want to hear your best and worst of the day.
All right, yes, welcome on in. Best and Worst brought to you by the good folks at the Doug Smith family of dealerships in American Fork and Spanish Fork. Kia, Subaru, Chevy, Jeep, Dodge, or Ram. It's all available for you. And nobody knows service like Doug knows service. Here, Doug. JJ, Best and Worst goes like this. To wrap out the hour, we talk about some of the best things we saw, some of the worst things we saw. Let's start with worst.
Okay.
Let's start with worst because I feel like I probably have more to say about that one than. No, that's not true. That's not true. And I don't want to come across as a pessimistic person, but here's the funny thing about today's worst is it's exactly what we thought would happen, or I guess I don't know why we'd anticipate anything different. But Kawhi Leonard, are you sitting down for this? He's going to miss basketball games.
Serious?
Oh, man.
He's the NBA's Iron Man. How could that happen?
He's the NBA's Iron Man.
He's the 2024 Ron Boone. He's the boomer.
That meme of him doing his crappy laugh is one of my favorites.
It's an all-timer.
It is. It's a bad time to be Kawhi Leonard. Knee injury. Look, I'm not here to laugh about a guy getting hurt. However, Kawhi Leonard is out indefinitely to start the 2024-2025 season. If you were to talk about Kawhi Leonard's career right now, what's his legacy going to be? Let's say this knee injury turns out to be pretty bad, and maybe it's the beginning of the very, very, very end. What are we to make of Kawhi Leonard's career?
Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Won 2 NBA titles.
San Antonio and Toronto.
Plenty of players have injury problems late in their career. This is his late in his career. I can't imagine he's got many more seasons left. For whatever reason, since he came to the Clippers, he just cannot stay healthy. Obviously, he had his issues in San Antonio towards the end, which was kind of weird. But now you're looking back on it, it's like, well, people are thinking that he was kind of faking stuff a little bit back then because he wasn't happy in San Antonio. Turns out it was just the beginning of his knee deterioration.
Ooh, is the Intuit Dome, it's done, right?
Yes,
Hey.
and it is spectacular.
So many bathrooms. Have you seen how many toilets there are? Every interview I see with Ballmer, it's him talking about 1,400 toilets.
Why are rich people so obsessed with toilets?
He's like, you want to see my personal
Russell
one?
Wilson,
I know.
Ballmer, they all brag about how many bathrooms they have.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Why is that?
And they all underperform. Maybe spend
They
some
don't
more
brag
time
about
on
their cars. They don't brag about the island they own. They brag about their bathrooms.
You know what, though? I think you and I are at the age, too, where we can appreciate a good toilet.
No, don't get me wrong.
An abundance of toilets.
Don't get me wrong. We all have our throne, but I don't need 15 of them.
Maybe you do, and you just don't know how amazing it is. Honey, I'll be using this one over
I'm
on the
not a
left.
dog. I don't need 15 spots to go to the bathroom. I'm good.
All right, and the best. I do. Look, I know that there was, and we chatted a little bit about it earlier, but I want to come back to the Utah Hockey Club and this first road trip that they had. And I'm going to put it as the best. I know it ended on a sour note with 2 losses, one of them to a not very good Anaheim team. But that team was wasted. And you also had a bad injury there. Bortuzzo went out late last night on a play that you commit a penalty on, too. But the 3 to 5, the 2-man advantage in hockey is one of my favorite moments in hockey because you're watching. And in our case, you're going, okay, don't screw this up. And it's just this ragtag try to keep Anaheim out of the goal. And they did. They didn't in overtime, but still, with that loss in overtime, the loss to the Devils, this team has now scored 20 goals in 5 games. This is what they do. They score a lot. Right now, the defense needs to get wrapped up a little bit, but a 5-point trip out east and then to Anaheim, I think that's a massive success.
They got
for
5 out of 8 points on the road against playoff teams.
Yes.
Is Anaheim a playoff team? Probably not. But the Islanders, the Rangers, and the Devils will all make the playoffs in the East. And if you asked me before the season started, based on what we knew about the team, which wasn't much other than what they had on the roster,
right?
How would they do on that first trip? I thought they would have lost all 3 of those games in New York and then probably beat the Ducks. They're exceeding expectations so far, which is setting them up for success. And I look at the standings today. Look, it's way early.
Oh, it's way early.
But they are second place in the Central, just 1 point behind Dallas. And you look at teams that are struggling. Colorado's struggling.
They haven't won a game yet.
So if this team can just be consistent, they really do have a great chance to be a playoff team. I know adversity is going to strike, as it already is with some injuries on the back on the blue line. But right now, you got to be really pleased with where they're at.
7 points out of your first 5 games, not bad. and you're 7 points ahead of Colorado, who have 0. And again,
Wow.
things are going to even out, I'm sure. You're not going to see Colorado go 0-for. They're going to be pushing for a playoff spot, but not a great start. But it also shows you that I think on any given night, a team like Anaheim can beat a team like Utah, who's a better team, obviously. And you can also see there's a lot of work to be done. So hopefully they shore up that defense and figure some things out there. All right. JJ, look at us talking hockey. Like we know what we're talking about. You're wearing the hockey hat today.
We do know what we're talking about.
I know. It's kind of weird. Like I watched that entire game last night, and that was with the Dodgers and Mets. It helped that was a bad game, but I was like, I'm more invested in this. I'm watching this thing, man. I could do without intermissions, though. I mean, we got to
it's like
figure
having
something
two
out.
halftimes, which
It's
I
too
don't
much.
love, but that's just part of hockey. So
it's too much.
It's just such a thrill to have the NHL here, and I hope everybody listening is enjoying it as much as we are.
We'll take the break here. We'll come back next hour. Stay with us. Stay tuned in. 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.